This week you've already seen Matt give his starting 11 of underrated players. It's my turn now, and I am actually going with 11 overrated players from across Europe this season. So first up, it is the goalkeeper. Now, there are so many overrated goalkeepers that do come to mind, but I'm going to have to go with PSG's Keylor Navas. Now, I know what you're all thinking. He had a really good game against Bayern Munich in the Champions League in the week, but let's not just be biased about this one good game. We need to think about the entire season and how he has been performing on the whole. And I feel like whilst he is a very good goalkeeper, I'm not too sure if he's necessarily been on such the top level that we've seen him at previously for the club. Whilst PSG arguably got the better goalkeeper in that swap with Real Madrid that saw Alphonse Areola and Navas swap teams, they weren't getting an absolute superstar. In his final season for Real Madrid, he only managed about 7 clean sheets across all competitions, and he is 34 years of age now, and I'm just wondering if he really is at that same high standard that the rest of the PSG team are as they go into this next stage of their attempt to get the Champions League trophy. Looking at some of the best goalkeepers across Europe, is he on the same level as Jan Oblak? Probably not. Is he on the same level as Marc-Andre ter Stegen? I wouldn't necessarily say so. Is he on the same level as Alisson when he's in form? I'm sorry, but definitely not. And I just feel like with this team that PSG are building, with obviously the likes of Neymar, Kylian Mbappe, I just don't really know if Navas is the right goalkeeper for them to move forward with. Like I say, the fact that he's 34 years of age, he's not necessarily as great as we've seen him in other seasons, in my opinion, and I just feel like it will be a case of when, not if, they will get a younger, talented goalkeeper. At the end of the day, if a goalkeeper does become available that, like I say, is younger and does have the talent, you cannot tell me that PSG will say, no, it's okay, I think we'll stick with Navas. They will definitely be interested in a new keeper. Next at right back, it is Liverpool's Trent Alexander-Arnold. Now, of course, there has been so much controversy over the player recently, especially when Gareth Southgate left him out of the England squad. Then when Premier League football returned, he had a great game against Arsenal and kind of silenced any critics, and then he had an absolute nightmare against Real Madrid in the Champions League. Things have really not been going his way. Now, the reason that he makes this overrated team is because whilst he definitely was a vital cog in the machine for Liverpool when they lifted that Premier League trophy, and he has had a couple of decent seasons, I feel like there are a few inconsistencies in his game and a few weaknesses that the media seem to just skip over, and they then dub him as the greatest right back in Europe, and I don't really think that he's lived up to that title this season, as he's simply not up to scratch. Whilst his crossing and free kicks offensively are great, you cannot take that away from him, he's maybe not been as good this season as what we're used to, and also defensively he has been really weak. And when you look at Liverpool's defence as a whole, and I'm talking about the back four of fit top players like Van Dijk and Gomez, I feel like Alexander-Arnold is probably the weakest player in that back four. And it does seem like teams have almost become a little bit wiser to what he can actually do and how to maybe put a stop to him and to expose some of his weaknesses. And all I can say is that for me this season he definitely has been overrated, and with the Euros approaching and that second leg of the Champions League fixture against Real Madrid, he's got to improve, and fast. Next, my first centre-back is Mats Hummels. Now, unfortunately for me this season he has been overrated. Do not get me wrong, very talented player. He has had, what, almost a decade in the limelight, and he has won so many trophies, and I think what we're witnessing here really is his decline. Like I say, he's got bags of experience, and he's definitely up there in the debate for some of the best centre-backs of his footballing generation, but like I say, this season we really have seen his weaknesses. Now, he's not, of course, entirely responsible for Dortmund's decline this season, especially in the Bundesliga, as things haven't been great, but we have seen time and time again Hummels really struggle with his pace and struggle to deal with some of the young attacking forwards that he's had to face. Of course, we've got to put some respect on Hummels' name and what he has achieved in his career, but I do feel like the media do hold him to a little bit of a higher standard than what he actually has been this season. So yeah, for me, he is overrated. Pairing up with Hummels is Harry Maguire. I didn't want to put him in here, but I've had to. Of course, when he arrived at Manchester United, he came with a massive price tag, and I do sympathise with Maguire and other players that have these big price tags, because of course everybody can just revert back to that argument of he's not living up to what Manchester United paid for him, but it seems like he hasn't really. After last season and for most of this season, there has been quite a bit of praise for Maguire, but for me personally, I feel like he's definitely been overrated with all of this praise that he's been getting, because essentially he's just been doing what a defender should do. He has been ticking the basic boxes of what a defender should be capable of, and for me, I don't necessarily think that he should be getting as much praise as he is getting for just doing the basics. Of course, Maguire is talented, and I think he's done a really good job of being a key player for Manchester United and wearing that captain's armband, but When you're looking at some of the greatest centre-backs at the moment, is he on that same level as Virgil van Dijk? Definitely not. Rafael Varane, Sergio Ramos, even Ruben Diaz at Manchester City, who's been great this season, I'm not too sure if he is actually on the same level as those players. Looking at the left-back position, and I have gone with Ben Chilwell. Now, 50 million euros is a lot of money to spend on a player, and do I think that he's not necessarily lived up to expectations and been a little bit overrated? Yes, I do. Now, of course, everybody will be talking about the fact that he did score in the Champions League, but like the Navas situation, we're not going to judge him just off one really good game, but look at him across the season. Now, I'm not saying that Marcos Alonso is better than Ben Chilwell, but he has managed to start ahead of Chilwell quite a couple of times, especially under Thomas Tuchel, which does raise a couple of eyebrows, and I just don't know if I'm convinced that he has proven himself to be worth the price tag. And also, whilst he was at Leicester, some people could argue that he was a little bit overrated there as well. The thing with Chilwell, like I say, 100% a talented player. I can totally understand why Chelsea did buy him, and I think that when you look at him going forward, he definitely drives the ball into some really good spaces, but I think sometimes his decision making can be questioned, but I'm sure that will probably come with age. Like quite a few players in the starting 11, he is talented, but I do not really understand why he's been put on this giant pedestal. I'm not completely convinced yet, and I just feel like if he wants to be on the same level as other left backs, like Alphonso Davies, like Andy Robertson, he certainly has a long way to go before he can reach those heights. Looking at central midfield, and it is Lazio's Sergej Milinkovic-Savic. Now, I do know that a lot of people will be saying that he's a really talented player. Definitely agree, he really is the complete midfielder, but this 70 million euro price tag that's been thrown around really just doesn't sit right with me, and I think that he is a little bit overrated. Like I say, great midfielder, but is he in that category of world class? I'm not too sure. Is he on the same level as the likes of Leon Goretzka? And also, although they're a little bit younger, is he on that same level as the likes of Phil Foden or Frenkie de Jong? I'm not too sure, and I just feel like if he was worth that massive price tag, if he was such an amazing player, why has no big clubs gone for him? He's clearly very happy at Lazio. They have had quite a good few seasons, but I feel like if he really does want to take it to the next level and prove people like me wrong, I think that we would have to see him maybe depart from Lazio. His contract doesn't expire until 2024, so it'll be really interesting to see what his next move is and if he will stay in that category of being overrated for me, or maybe will I change my mind. My other central midfielder has to be Arthur for Juventus. Now, when that swap deal was made with Barcelona and Juve, I think that there were so many fans in complete uproar, a lot of people in shock, and a lot of people feeling like Barcelona would live to regret swapping Arthur, sending him to Juventus. But I'm not too sure if he's completely shown Barcelona what they have been missing. Whilst Barcelona are maybe regretting that move for Miralem Pjanic, he's not really been great. I'm not too sure how Arthur has been doing at Juventus as well. He of course is talented, and I do think that with 24 years of age, he definitely has a lot more to give. But when he made this move to Juventus, there was such a fanfare around it. There was so much media hype. And it kind of felt like he was the person that was going to come in and completely transform Juventus and their midfield. And it's safe to say that that hasn't really happened. Now, you cannot blame Arthur for Juventus' decline whatsoever, but I'm not too sure if he has done enough. And also, like I say, with the injury and quite a few concerns over his fitness, could he be one of these overrated players that does have all the potential but can't necessarily stay fit? We'll have to wait and see. When it comes to an attacking midfielder, I had to go with Kai Havertz. Now, of course, the 21-year-old made the move to Chelsea for around 80 million euros, and I think that a lot of people did have patience with the player. They understood that he was young, he was moving to a completely different style of football, a different club, a different city, different culture, etc. But I feel like Chelsea fans and their patience is wearing a little bit thin. And I think we're yet to actually see the real Kai Havertz at Stamford Bridge. The form that we saw for Bayer Leverkusen is long gone, and we have seen Havertz struggle, especially in high-tempo games, and he has been unable to make an impact and keep possession in big games, and even when he's come on as a sub. Of course, people can blame Frank Lampard a little bit for this one, as I don't think he was necessarily playing him in the right positions, but there is still a lot of potential in Havertz, but is that potential a little bit overhyped? Now, things have got a lot better, especially with the arrival of Thomas Tuchel, 100%, and I think that Havertz is maybe gaining a little bit of confidence, but are we really going to see the same player that we saw in Germany? Of course, he has suffered with a few injuries. There is still a lot of optimism around Havertz, but I think he has to admit defeat on this one, that this season has been an absolute disaster, and let's hope that maybe next season he can perform a little bit better, but for now, he has earned his place in this starting 11. On the left wing, I have gone with Vinicius Jr. Now, I know a lot of people will be shouting at the screen because, of course, he scored 2 great goals in the week for Real Madrid in the Champions League. But this actually makes it even more frustrating to watch him, and why he definitely is overrated, because as we saw in the week, He definitely has the talent, but for some reason he is unable to display this week in, week out for Los Blancos. Now, he hasn't been at Real Madrid for too long. He came to the club at 18 years of age for around 46 million euros, and this is only his third season playing in the first team. Yes, he has had a few injuries, but looking at the hype that has been created around this player in Madrid, he is yet to show us that real star quality under Zinedine Zidane. And let's face it, he has been given the game time. Those 3 seasons that he's been in the first team, he has made over 30 appearances each season, and he's not really had too much to show for them. He did make a great first impression, but apart from a couple of goals and decent assists each season, we're not getting enough from him. And maybe he's feeling the pressure, but maybe this is why he's overhyped, because he simply cannot be resilient enough to overcome the pressure and prove to us why he's such a great player. Looking on the right wing, and I have gone with Dejan Kulusevski. Now, he is only 20 years of age at Juventus, but there has been a lot of hype, and I do feel that he is a little bit overrated at the moment. This doesn't mean that he cannot prove me wrong, and hopefully we can take him out of this starting 11. He really did impress during his time at Parma, which meant that back in January 2020, Juventus splashed out 35 million euros for the youngster, which could end up being actually 44 million with variables. Of course, he saw out the rest of the season with Parma, and he actually ended up winning Best Young Serie A Player of the season, and he ended up with 10 goals for the club. However, this season he hasn't quite managed to emulate his form. Of course, at Juventus there have been a lot of newcomers, a lot of young newcomers, especially players such as Federico Chiesa, and I think when you look at his form this season, he hasn't been half as consistent as some of these other players. Kulusevski has been given game time. He started pretty much every Serie A game this season. He's only managed 5 goals across all competitions, and like I say, he is young, he definitely does have time to improve, but at the moment he is definitely not shining bright enough at Juventus. And finally, we have a striker. There were so many different players that I could consider for this one, but I've gone with Manchester United's Anthony Martial. After he scored 23 goals last season for the club, there was so much hype, and there was so much hype around Manchester United's front 3, with some media even actually saying that the likes of Rashford, Greenwood and Martial up front could be one of the best front 3s in Europe, and how wrong they were, because Martial has really let the side down. Let's face it, he's been overrated since his arrival at Old Trafford. He's never really managed to prove his worth, and it seems like towards the end of every season he manages to score just enough goals, get just enough assists for people to actually think that he's a really talented player, and he manages to keep his place in the team. When you look at transfer market, the fact that his market value is estimated to be around 50 million euros is just mind-blowing, and I just don't understand it. When he scored those 23 goals last season, everybody finally thought that he has definitely hit his form and the only way is up for Martial. And this season, he's managed 7 goals in over 30 appearances. A real disappointment. Like I say, an extremely overhyped player. He definitely deserves this spot in this starting 11, and I just can't see things getting much better for him, and I think Manchester United have to make a decision and get him out and get a new striker in. So that is my overrated 11. I'm sure there are a few disagreements, maybe I missed a couple of players out. Let me know in the comment section below what you guys think and what your starting 11 would be. As always, check out all the other content that we have got here at OneFootball, and I will see you all later.